In this video, I'll just be going through a basic intro of the IB Diploma program. Since most of you were from the MYP program, most likely you moved on to the Diploma program, hence this video. So the first thing that maybe you should know would be the subject groups that you'll have to take in the Diploma program. There are 6 subject groups. So the first group is language and literature, which is basically English. That's a subject that all of you will be required to take. The next subject group is language acquisition. You'll have to take one foreign language in addition to English. So this depends entirely on what language your school provides. And this language can be separated into AB Initio or language B. AB Initio is for beginners. If you've never learned the language at all or your knowledge of it is very minimal, you'll be taking AB Initio, but you'll be taking language B if you have sort of more knowledge on it, or maybe it's part of the language you grew up with, then you'll be made to take language B. Normally, schools may make you take a test to see which level you fall under, which will help them decide to see which group to put you in. And after that would be individuals and society subject, which is sort of a breakdown from the MYP individuals and society subject. So within here, there are many options, examples being economics, business, psychology. You can sort of choose according to where your interests lie. And then group 4 are sciences, examples obviously biology, chemistry, physics, more. And group 5, mathematics. Different to how the IBDP was previously. What they've done now is in mathematics, there's 2 types you can choose. There's analysis and approaches, and there's applications and interpretations. People who prefer to use mathematics in real life situations often choose applications and interpretations. And those who like algebra and more so hardcore and pure math, they may choose analysis and approaches. In general, the harder math is considered to be analysis and approaches. And there's also group 6, which is the arts. However, group 6 is the only one where it's not compulsory to take a subject. If you do not take any subject from the arts, you are required to take a second subject from the other groups. Commonly, people take a subject from group 4, they take 2 sciences, or they take another one from group 3, they take another individuals and societies subject. So these are all the subject groups. And among these subject groups, you are required to take a minimum of 6 subjects, in which 3 of those subjects will be your higher level subjects. You'll be learning more topics from the subject, harder syllabus, and the other 3 will be at a standard level. However, you are allowed to take 4 higher level subjects, but it doesn't really make that big of a difference. It is still recommended that you take 3 higher level subjects. And besides that, another part of IB that is sort of different from other syllabuses is that they don't only test you based off of examinations. So they have internal coursework as well as external examination. So how you'll be tested on each subject you take will be an addition or combination of internal assessments plus examinations. So normally, depending on the subject and depending on whether you're taking it at a higher level or a standard level, the percentage in which your internal assessment contributes to your final grade will differ slightly. But an internal assessment is pretty much just some experiment report or exploration you do. It depends entirely on the subject specifically. However, this internal assessment is different for languages. For English, you'll be having an oral assessment called IO, and the same for language acquisition, in which you'll be tested on your speaking. And language and literature you'll be having a 10-minute oral presentation, which you'll learn more about as you go on to DP. So generally, IAs for most subjects will contribute to 20% of your final score, while 80% will go towards your examination. However, this depends on the subject. For instance, for language and literature and language acquisition and individuals and societies, if you are an SL student, you're taking the subject at a standard level, the IA will contribute to 30%. But if you're taking it at a higher level, it'll contribute to only 20%. However, for subjects such as sciences, the IA will contribute to 20% for all students. So you can see to what significance the IA will have on your score depending on what subject you're taking and whether you take it at a higher or at a lower level. And besides that, another thing unique about the diploma program is how, besides the subjects, the coursework, and the examination, they require the completion of other core elements, which include the extended essay, which is an extended 4,000 word piece of research or exploration, highly dependent on the subject, the theory of knowledge, TOK, and creativity, activity, and service, CAS, which I'll be explaining further on later. And just generally for you to be aware, these are the passing requirements for the diploma program. The grading scale is exactly the same as MYP. You'll be graded on a scale of 1 to 7, in which for higher level subjects, 4 is considered a passing grade. And for standard level subjects, 3 is considered a passing grade. You are required to score a minimum of 24 points. However, there are other passing requirements, so most likely you'll have to score a bit above that. For if you are taking 3 HL subjects, you'll have to score a minimum of 12 points. But if you're taking 4 HL subjects, the 3 subjects in which you score the highest will be taken into consideration for those 12 points. As for SL subjects, if you're taking 3 of them, you'll need to score a minimum of 9 points in total. And if you're taking 2 of them, you'll have to score a minimum of 5 points. And there should be no grade 1 in any subject, no matter whether you take SL or HL. And there should not be more than 2 grade 2s awarded, SL or HL, and no more than grade 3s or below awarded. Same again, SL and HL. And back to the core requirements. There's 3 core requirements that you should take notice of: TOK, EE, and CAS. So TOK and EE contribute to the 3 final points, because if you notice, normally if you take 6 subjects and if you score, let's say 7 in all of them, that'll only contribute to 42 points. But the total points for the IB diploma is 45. So these final 3 marks are awarded for TOK and EE, in which you'll be graded off of letters A, B, C, D for both TOK and EE. And the combination of grades that you get for both of them will determine the number of points that you get towards the end. So this combination is determined by IB, but usually if you get at least an A in either one, TOK or EE, and a B in the other, that will allow for 3 marks. But if you end up getting a B in both, that may go to 2 marks. So that's how it's decided. And one thing that you should take notice of is that for the IAs, the internal assessments for all subjects, as you can tell by the name, those are internally marked, which means they're marked by teachers, and then they go out to IB to be externally moderated. But the difference with that from theory of knowledge and extended essay is that TOK and EE are externally marked. So meaning the grade that the teacher gives you internally does not play a major role in the final grade that you get for TOK and EE. So it can sort of only be a prediction as to what you may get. So going specifically for TOK, you'll be doing, there's 2 things you'll be doing. One is a TOK exhibition that you'll be doing in your first year of DP in DP1. And in your second year in DP2, you'll be writing a TOK essay for 1,600 words. For the exhibition, you'll be choosing a prompt out of 30 already determined prompts. These prompts stay the same every year. So you have to choose one prompt, and then you choose 3 objects, and you have to discuss about the objects in terms of the prompt for 950 words. It's basically a written piece that's your final work that'll be submitted to IB. Although you will be doing a presentation exhibition, what will be submitted to the IB is just the piece of writing. So your exhibition, your presentation skills won't be graded whatsoever. And this exhibition contributes to 1/3 of your final TOK grade. And the other 2/3 will be contributed by your TOK essay, in which the prompts change every year. So IB has to release them. And you'll choose one and discuss about it for 1,600 words. And if you fail in TOK, no diploma awarded. You'll have to pass in TOK. And that's the same for extended essay as well, in which you create some research papers, some exploration. It depends highly on the subject. So if you choose a science, naturally you'll be doing some kind of experimentation, depending on some real world issue. You want to do some experiment. For mathematics, you may be required to do a lot of literature reviews because it's a bit difficult to do experimentation for mathematics. And for business economics would be creating a new economic theory. It really depends on the subject. And as I mentioned before, combined point system, and you have to pass an extended essay. Normally, there's no problem in getting the diploma. If you do something and you submit something to the IB, you really won't be failing TOK or EE. And the last thing would be CAS, Creativity Activity Service. So there's three separations. You'll be required to take at least 2 CAS activities for each category, and you'll be required to conduct or be part of one CAS project that spans in a period of at least a month. Generally, you're allowed to get 3 people to lead one project, so you can do it with your friends and lead it together. But naturally, you shouldn't be worrying too much about this because in the end, it's not really graded. It's just sort of a requirement that you have to fulfill compared to TOK and EE that's actually graded, because in the end, it'll just be a CAS requirement fulfilled. And that's about it for what DP is normally about. And just some piece of advice that I want to give. I'm pretty sure you see it everywhere on forums to say to start planning your IAs and EEs early, but that's really the best advice to give because it starts to get hectic later on with university applications, and you get stressed, the school gets stressed, everyone gets stressed together. So it's best to start planning in for your IAs and EEs whenever you have any long holidays, starting from your first year in your DP. Because how it works is that, for instance, for science, you may believe that you want to learn more content before working on your IA, but there's really no need to especially learn that content because you won't be having the time to do that. Most of the time, you'll just be doing your own research because what you learn in theory is not necessarily what you can do as an experiment. So naturally, you'll be doing a lot of research. There will not be too much of a difference, even if you were to actually learn the content. And if you would like to already do it beforehand, you can approach your teacher to ask for help. So it's good that you can start doing it earlier, especially if it's a science IA or EE, because you have to do an experiment. It's good to start planning early so you can book the lab, you can get the materials you need. The lab at your school may not have it, so you may want to order some apparatus or some material. So having the plan will make it easier, and you don't know whether the experiment will work out or not. So for sciences, it requires a lot of trial and error, so starting early always helps. But if you're doing one where it's part of individuals and societies, for instance, it makes your life much easier. You don't have to do any experiments. So honestly, if you sit down and do it, it's possible to do it. So you can start preparing proposals, start looking at research articles, and in case your school doesn't initiate it themselves, you can always go to your teacher, because for some schools, they may not like to put pressure on DP1. They focus on the second year of DP, but really it'll be more stressful if you don't take some of that pressure for DP1. So if you start early, it just makes your life much easier. And my advice would be, compared to your extended essay, a lot of people like to focus on extended essay, but I would advise to focus on the internal assessment, because it's internally marked, which means your teacher's mark is really important, because that will pretty much most likely be the mark that you finally get, say plus or minus 2 points, if the marking is generally accurate. Because your internal assessment will only go out for external moderation. It'll still be internally marked. but extended essay will be externally marked itself. So your teacher's marking will not play that big of a role. So another thing is that for both IA and EE, you're only allowed to get one written feedback from your teacher, but you're allowed to have a lot of verbal feedback. So for IAs, you should make it a habit to go to the teacher to show your progress, to ask a lot of questions, because you really need the teacher to give you good marks as well. No matter how well you believe you do, you need the teacher to believe that you did well as well in order to get your mark. So it's always good to keep on going back for verbal or advice, because what you think may be good may not necessarily be what the teacher thinks is good. So for IA, it's important to have a lot of communication with your teacher. And another thing is that the years of a diploma is really important, especially for university applications. So before you attend, one thing that you could possibly think of is what country do you want to study in? Or even better, what university specifically, what course do you want to attend? It'll help narrow down the subjects that are required for you to take. For the course generally, for the same course across different countries and across different universities, the subjects they want you to take may differ. For instance, naturally, for computer science course, for instance, some universities would require, most actually, would require mathematics and physics as a higher level subject. So it's good to know what subjects are necessary, especially nowadays, I believe, compared to the past. Even if you want to go towards medicine, higher level mathematics is desired. And one thing that you should take note of is what's desired is mainly not mathematics applications and interpretation, but mathematics analysis and approaches. A lot of universities don't especially value Math A and I. If you were to take Math A and I, it's only valued if you take it as a higher level subject. And Math A and A is still valued even if it's taken as a standard level, but of course, it's always better to take it as a higher level. This is mainly because Math A&A is believed to be the harder subject, the harder course, and universities look at the rigor of the subject, the course that you're taking. So for instance, if you score a math in A&A, that would be more impressive than scoring a 6 or 7 in Math A&I, and universities look at that. So it's highly advisable to take Math A&A HL if possible, even if you were to score a bit lower, because universities would look at the rigor of the course that you're taking. And besides that, besides the subjects that your course requires, you can specifically look at the university to see if they offer any credits for any specific subjects. For instance, some universities offer it for chemistry and science and generally other subjects, but even if it doesn't necessarily relate to the course that you're taking, you may want to think of taking that subject because it'll help you skip some classes for university in the future. So if you have a proper plan, you can choose your subjects really well, and you can try out the subjects and see if it works out for you. And just always, if you can, if it's always possible, just take Math AA and over AI. No matter what, universities will always prefer that. And another thing is to read subject guides. Although in the beginning I never read subject guides, it's really helpful for IAs and EEs especially, because while teachers may introduce it to you as well, the subject guides are quite specific actually, and they really do help in the sense where you read it and understand it yourself. So it's good to always read them. Even if you don't read the rest, at least read how the examination works and how IAs and EEs work. And another thing is some useful IB resources that I found. Number one would be Examate, which is a website that gives you topical past year papers. So you can select the year of the paper, and you can select a specific subject and a specific topic within the subject, and you can get questions from that. However, you'll have to pay money if you want to get to years beyond 2016. So only 2016 and below would be free, but beyond that, you would have to pay. It's a good resource, but I'm aware that the syllabus and the examination styling is changing for 2025. So it may only be good for practice, but not necessarily good for the new syllabus that you may be preparing for. And another thing is Revision Village. Previously, they only had mathematics, but now they've included other subjects such as chemistry and physics. And they offer question banks, they offer explanations for past year paper answers, especially for paper one multiple choice questions. ExamMate only gives you the answers to it, but Revision Village actually explains to you why the answer is like so, and they give concept explanations as well, which may be helpful to you. And another thing is related to universities as well. You should be aware of university deadlines, and because unless a lot of people from your school generally go to such universities, you'll have to be aware of your own university deadlines because, for instance, if the deadlines are before your mock grades, you may want to ask for predicted grades earlier, which you have to know and you have to initiate. You may want to contact your diploma coordinator and request predicted grades previously so you don't have to do it rush towards the end right before the deadline. So you should be aware of these deadlines so you can plan for it. And another thing to also focus on, besides your studying and all that, to see if you can participate in things within and outside of schools to build up your extracurricular activities. This also depends on the country, the university, but for instance, for universities in the United States, they value extracurricular activities a lot. They like to see whether you have leadership skills, whether you volunteer, and what academic expertise you have, what activities do you do. They like to look at that. So you may want to think of what you can do, what opportunities the school provides. Maybe you want to see what you can even do outside the school. So these are things you can keep track of. And besides that, you can keep track of all these things that you've done in a portfolio, a resume, sort of. Because if you ever want to ask for teacher recommendations in the future for your university applications, you can easily hand them your portfolio and it has the list of everything. It makes it so much easier rather than having to recall every tiny thing that you previously did. And another thing is, due to the way that the diploma program is coordinated, many things you do within it can be easily helpful for your portfolio, such as your CAS. You lead a project and you do many other activities that involve service, physical activity, and creativity. So you should make full use of that as it can be helpful to your portfolio. So yeah, that's all I have to say for the diploma program. If you have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you for watching.